What's happening, MuniciPals? This is your boy Big C. Just want to let you guys know this week we are having a real close, dear friend of mine on the podcast, Dave Mayall. I've known him half of my life. Great guy. I call him a kid because he's younger than me and he's my best friend's little brother. But he is an absolute gem of a person. He has worked his way up through the turf industry, starting at the ground level at a country club, then becoming, more than that and working his way up to now being a superintendent. And you guys will be able to hear about his entire story through this episode. It is one to listen to. You definitely should tune in.
You should. But Chris, I'm also here as well. And real quick, is before we kind of go into the golf stuff, you are a parent. The last time we recorded, you were not a parent. You are a parent. Just give the people a little flavor for what dad life is like, man. Like you kind of showed me a little baby Frankie on when he came on, and of course, unfortunately, this is a audio medium. But just tell the people how it's going. I've been sending you kind of all my good vibes.
It's going good. Yeah, she decided she wanted to come early. So she wasn't supposed to be here yet. She was supposed to be here next week. But we got her a couple weeks early, and she's an absolute princess. I mean, she's as you can hear kind of in the background, she's in her she's right behind me, sleeping after I just fed her, but it's outside of my career and marrying my wife, it is the most rewarding thing I have ever done. I mean, it's tiring. I'll tell people that. I mean, you sneak in, sleep when you can. At this age, newborn, they're basically eating, shitting, and sleeping. That's pretty much their entire job. Just trying to grow and become a little human. And so you're getting 2 hour, 3 hour cat naps in between feeds, and it's crazy. It's a lot, but it's absolutely rewarding. And I'm so glad I have her in my life, and it's been one of the best things ever. And yeah, I can't wait to see her grow up and become a little LPGA player.
I love that. No, I can't wait to meet her. And speaking of that, this is a natural segue. I'm going to be coming up in December, and we're not going to be able to play golf because it's going to be freezing. But you know where we might get out to when I'm up there? We might get out to Envision Golf, Chris.
Envision Golf? You get out to Envision Golf?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. Chris, tell the people about Envision Golf real quick, and then we'll get to the podcast.
Guys, listen up. Envision Golf is where it's at. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Tigert, Portland area, Envision Golf is the absolute destination for indoor golf. This place has fucking got it all. You've got sports on 8 to 12 TVs all over the place. You've got great drinks, great food. Ashton knows they've got a on-point bartender. She is incredible. Probably the most realistic simulator that you'll ever experience. Doesn't matter where you live. This golf zone, the product that they use in Envision Golf for their simulators is spot on when you're going to try to get a realistic feel from the actual course. It has undulating floor. It has sand. It has rough, readjustable height tees, double-sided tee boxes for left and right-handers, where me and Ashton, we love playing on a match play team, but the big issue when you play at a lot of simulator golf is you're constantly having to switch over shit to be able to compensate for the fucking dumbass left-handers. So this place is great because it's already preset up. All you do is put in your account that you're a left-hander, and the actual system, when it's your turn to hit, will automatically switch you over. It's So streamlined, so simple, so easy. It is the best place to go. And if you walk in, tell them the MuniciPals sent you, you get a free hour, free round of golf. And on your next visit, you get 20% off your round. So that was an added bonus that they just offered for everybody. So first time visiting, free round of golf. Second time visiting, 20% off your time while you're in there.
Yeah, I certainly wish we had one in the Bay Area. So hopefully they can expand down here so I can experience it as well on a more regular basis. But with that, let's go to Bryson.
How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is your boy Big C. We got Ashton on the pod as well. Special guest this week. Guy I've known 15, 20 years almost.
Yep.
His brother was one of my best, or is still one of my best friends, but best friends from high school. Dave Mayall. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here. I've been watching you guys, keeping up with you guys. It's good to come on and talk to you guys for a change,
Yeah. I mean, so you've been in the golf industry now for a while. Kind of give us a backstory of where you started, what got you into, agriculture and working on golf courses. Where did you start in your groundskeeping career? Was it golf related?
Yeah, it was golf related. I started as a landscaper. I was a landscaper for 10 years from when I was, right out of high school. I fell in love with the sport of disc golf, actually. And disc golf kind of ramped me into, getting onto golf courses, seeing, what structured landscaping looks like, beautiful hardscapes and things like that. And then I kind of went with it from there. I got a job as a greenskeeper at Winchester Country Club. That was about 4 years ago now. And I was a greenskeeper there for about 2 years. Did a lot of crazy renovation stuff there. And then I got a promotion, became an irrigation technician at Winchester. I did that for about 8 months, and then I moved over to Indian Creek, which is right down the road. I did a lot of irrigation. I was an assistant there. And then after 6 months, I got offered a job as a superintendent up where I am now at Arbuckle Golf Club. And it's right off I-5. And so, I really fell in love with the turf industry, and it's kind of been a passion of mine my whole life. And it's just, things have just kind of fallen into place. And I love moving around, love learning different courses and things like that. So it's kind of just, honestly, it's all fallen into place really gracefully. So
I would even say knowing you for so long, it almost started before that, because, when you were in high school, and I think me and your brother were seniors in high school, your family moved out to Penryn, and you guys bought a massive piece of land, and your dad instantly put all of you guys to work.
Oh yeah, we've been doing landscape projects for the family for years. And I also worked at a nursery when I was younger. My first job was working at a plant nursery, and we did wholesale to Green Acres and Isley's and a bunch of nurseries around there. So I really, I've been honing my craft, you could say, for years. And I didn't even know it until, I got into greenskeeping, and I was like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. I can actually go somewhere with it. And, I kind of just grabbed the reins and ran with it as hard as I could,
Yeah, I mean, you even kind of dabbled in, before it even was the boom, you kind of dabbled in the cannabis industry a little bit. That was kind of a little bit of your agriculture background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Before the boom, you could say, because, after that, it kind of gets a a little hard. They're pinching pennies nowadays in the cannabis industry. It's all about products, the highest amount of products that you can get out. So it's a little bit of a change in the industry than from what I remember when I first tried getting into it, 10 years ago. So it's, I dabbled in that and, kind of found out that it wasn't a place that I really wanted to go into just because the market was so intense at the time when I first started, and there was a huge learning curve to it, and you were trying to learn from people that had only been in it for a few years as well as you. And, it was kind of a scary time in that market.
Yeah, so it's a lot different because in golf, there's a lot more. It depends on where you at in golf. I mean, with Winchester being a country club, having members, and being owned by Troon for a long time, there was a lot of money there that was able to be put into the course. Where you've changed, you're probably more like that industry now, being at Arbuckle. I'm sure there's some things that you probably have to do a lot differently, and things you probably learned at Indian Creek because it is a municipal course, more on a budget, really trying to figure out how to expand the money that they have to keep the course in as good a condition as possible.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Irrigation was the biggest thing for me. I think it took me to new places with golf. Everybody always needs a good irrigation technician on their course, and you'll notice right away if they don't. With Indian Creek, it was hard because you were always trying to reuse parts, rebuild things. It was the same at Winchester because it was a 30-year-old system, but they had a lot more money to throw into the system, so it was easier you weren't just trying to rebuild the parts. You could actually just put new parts in there because it was part of the budget. Whereas at these 9-hole courses, their budget is whatever you can make fit, you make it fit, and so you try to fix as much as you can, and you gotta cut into the budget when you have to, pretty much.
And Dave, the 30-year mark is where you kind of need to revamp the system, right? I listened to the Fried Egg recently, and they were saying that around the 30-year mark is where you kind of need to replace the whole system. So were you replacing individual parts, or did you guys ever have a time where you're like, we might need to just shut the course down and redo it?
I think there's quite a few courses in our area that are reaching that point. We never reached that point. We redid sections of it. We would get mainline breaks quite a bit and have to, readjust from there. But it's pretty much just that's a budget stipulation. I know that Granite Bay just recently went through a renovation, and that was part of their renovation. They were having the same issues before, and I was thinking about going there at a time too when they were doing the renovation. So it's a big issue in our area. A lot of those courses are getting older, and it's a big cost to switch over. And you have a lot of things going into water rights and different issues with water that kind of can stop people from making that decision at this moment. It's a pretty large decision.
Yeah, I know, like Roseville, Rockland, the area that you kind of grew up in and you kind of honed your skills. It really boomed in the late 80s, early 90s. That's when most of these courses were built, kind of around the same. I mean, they're aging like fine wine, like myself. So most of these courses were built kind of when I was born. So it's definitely, approaching that 30 to 40 year mark. And, I know Diamond Oaks is one that's going to need to probably do a full reno here soon. And, there's just a lot of courses. Turkey Creek is in that same boat.
Right. Yeah.
And so you're going to see a lot of that probably having to happen. I know Granite Bay, when they did their renovation or when they did their irrigation, they actually did a re-renovation of the course as well. And, it's a little easier for a high-priced country club to be able to do that. What do you see when coming to that age? Are you seeing some of the public courses kind of, now that golf is booming, you're seeing an uptick of tee times, more money coming into the courses? Are you seeing that as a priority for a lot of the courses?
I think it is. I think for my course that I'm at specifically right now, we did a valve project 3 years ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. They did a valve project, so they replaced all the main valves that run through the center of the fairways, and that is one of the biggest problems. Is the valves will go out, then you have to shut down half of the course to replace it. And that's a big issue. If you have a couple of those go out in a week, that's one, it looks horrible. It can destroy a whole entire hole with the amount of pressure that it's under. But two, it's gonna be a big cost and a big pain in the butt for the whole entire grounds crew. So.
And you guys being a 9-hole course, it's got to be really difficult and really pressing, because you can't with an 18-hole course you could shut a hole or two down, or make temporary greens or move tee boxes to be able to compensate for that. But you really can't do that in a 9-hole course.
Yeah, it's more of finding the time. That's the beautiful thing about being in the Super at the course that I'm at. You shut down the course for the day, and then in the afternoon, right at the end of the day, you say, okay, you guys are going to have to skip this hole, and I'm going to be doing irrigation here or something like that. It's a lot of planning, I think, for the smaller courses that you don't have to deal with the big courses, but it's still the same thing. It's all about timing, and that's a big thing with groundskeeping in general. Is it's all about timing.
So tell us a little bit about Arbuckle. That's kind of one course that's kind of slipped out of my grasp in the area. I never really made it out there. Tell us a little bit about the course, if you know any history about it, and what makes Arbuckle as a 9-hole stand out compared to a lot of. I know there's not a lot of courses right around where you're at, but what would make somebody from Sacramento, Woodland, or the Bay coming up north stop at Arbuckle and play?
Well, that's actually the reason why I went to Arbuckle, is because of the history. Before, it's been around for 100 years. They just had their centennial this year, and so before it was actually all sand greens, and so it was completely backwards from the way it was, or the way it is today. And so when you play the course, you actually play it backwards from their original setup. And it has all the sand is still there. They used it for the base for all of their greens. So all their greens, the moisture content in their greens is fantastic. One of the best greens that I've ever played, let alone on a 9-hole course. So it's awesome. And then, as far as, it's right up next to the Buttes. So the Buttes Mountains is literally the background. There's no homes that surround it. It's all almond orchards. So it's beautiful. During February, the almonds are blooming, and it's one of the most beautiful scenic courses. You can see the Buttes right off of T3. It's amazing place to be. Honestly, you can tell why it's lasted for 100 years.
I mean, that sounds incredible. I mean, two things that me and Ashton look for when we go and play courses is, one, cost to what the relative, what the relative conditions are of the course. And then two, the greens. I mean, I can have a pretty sparse fairway, or, if a course needs to cut costs and, let the rough kind of burn out and really just focus on, tee box to green kind of situation. Right. I think that's the most important thing for us. We've played some pretty decently manicured courses that had absolutely soggy dog shit greens. And so, I mean, for me, what is the cost to play Arbuckle?
I think it's somewhere around, it's higher for a 9-hole. I think it's $28. And then there's a cart fee as well for that, on top of that.
How long is Arbuckle? Do you know?
I don't know the distance of it. It's a longer 9-hole. It has 2 par 5s, and the rest are par 4s except for 2 par 3s. So it's a much longer course than a lot of 9 holes that you'll see.
That's a good bang for your buck, though. I mean, Ashton being from the Bay Area, I mean, the average ticket price going out walking is $70. That's average. That's any day of the week, doesn't matter. Maybe you'll catch a twilight for 50 or 40, but like the average cost to go out and play is anywhere between 50 and 120, depending on where you're going.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the background is not the buttes and not on an almond orchard. It's, I mean, it's just not that nice. But
yeah, you see, for the price that we have, the greens are crazy spectacular. And like you said, that you see a lot of courses to cut costs. They'll get rid of some section in the rough or the fairway or something like that. That I see that with a lot of 9 holes. That they'll, if you focus on the tees and you focus on the greens, you can let other sections, go a little bit worse than, as long as you maintain those areas and make sure they're perfect, and that's a big thing that you'll see at a lot of 9 holes. And that's actually what we're focusing on at Arbuckle is we already have those areas perfect, and we're trying to make the fairways and the roughs just as perfect as all the rest of it. So I'm really excited to be there for that.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I was going to ask, to kind of give the State of the Union, right? Like, when you walked in, when you were interviewing, what did you notice? And, what have been some of those projects where now you're like, I'm sure you have to tier it, right? You want to do all this stuff, but it's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. What did you kind of walked into, and what have kind of been the things you've been tackling one by one?
So the first thing that I walked into, they had a lot of irrigation issues over the summer. We've had a drought, so they actually were unable to use the city irrigation water. So it was all well water that they were supplementing off of for the whole entire summer. They also had the superintendent change, and that's where I came in. So for some of the hottest months, they didn't have anybody that was going out there daily checking the irrigation. So the 4th hole, the 7th hole, they had issues on their greens, and actually sections of the greens died off, same as the putting green. And so when I got there was huge sections missing that we had to reseed, and we were also going into aerification at that time. And it was actually, I want to say, the last week that I could have done aerification was the week that I did it, because the temperature changed, and now the holes are barely closing up right before we have this huge shift in weather and everything like that. If I would have waited another week, we would have been seeing holes for 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be tough, especially coming in where there's already things kind of in process, and then you're kind of just taking over. How is that in having to complete those things, and then integrate what you see that is the most important thing out there?
It's stressful because everybody has their plan, and then like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's mostly those big jobs. You create your big plan. Then the next day comes, you get your crew out there, and nothing's moving as fast as you want it to. You set up 3 days where you're going to say, okay, everybody, we're closed down, and then all hell breaks loose, and those 3 days are gone, and you're still, halfway done with your project. So I think it's really just rebounding, kind of noticing the things that happen a lot and trying to evade those issues and kind of just move forward and take it as calm as you can, and I think that's really what I've noticed, is taking a step back and kind of just reassessing is never a bad part, in this industry, at least.
To me, I think it's really important to have quality 9-holers out in the wild. There's a course that we talk about all the time. Ashton's played multiple times. I haven't been able to get out there because it's in Tennessee, but it's a course called Sweetens Cove, and I don't know if you're familiar with that course at all, but you should look it up and see it. But basically, these guys that worked in the golf industry decided to buy their own golf course, and it was a golf course that was built in a floodplain, floods 3-4 times a year. Like fully floods, like feet of water deep flooding.
Right.
And it just never could stand the test of that and the environment it was in. And these guys kind of came in and renovated it to the point where all the greens are raised, tee boxes are raised. It's a very sandy site, so the water just kind of disperses within like 48 hours. It's nuts. Like, it's so deep that people could swim in it. Like, it's that deep, and it's gone within 2 days. And,
Yep.
Those guys getting creative and having places like that for people to go, it's so much fun because an 18-hole round takes so long. It can take 4 or 5 hours playing, but having a good quality 9 that you can get out to, or if you're driving from point A to point B, which is great for Arbuckle. If anybody's driving north in California and you've got your clubs with you, you can pop out, stretch your legs, play 9 holes within an hour and a half or so, and then get back in the car and keep pushing. And I think there needs to be more of that. And I think there's places in people that are not necessarily understanding the need of a 9-hole course and what it does for the community it's in and for the people surrounding it. What would you say is a big difference from working at a public course like Indian Creek, which is a full 18, and working at Arbuckle? What's the big difference between the two? Is it easier to be able to hone in and maintain 9 holes? And do you see kind of a different demographic of people that go out and play it?
You definitely see a different demographic of people. I think it's more so you get your dailies more because those people are, I guess it really depends. You get the people that, want to get a good round of golf in, but they also don't want to spend $80,000 a year. And I think that's just your normal day-to-day person, that you're going to get. Yeah, they might be infatuated with golf just as much as we are, but they have other hobbies as well too, or, their pocketbook is not, endless. And I think that the 9-hole helps a lot of those people, that it still feels their infatuation with golf. They can still get out on the daily every day to go play a round, but they're not, seeing it at the end of the year when half their, paychecks are gone. And that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and it's probably also too, one thing that I know I need to do a better job of is, well, I guess it's because I don't get to play a ton, is I feel like whenever I play, it's like I'm having fun, but I'm also like grinding, right? Where it's like, what's the slope? What are the tees? What am I going to shoot? How's it going to affect my handicap? Right. And to Chris's point, one of the reasons I love Sweetens is like, it's not, it's 9 holes. It's not USGA rated. There's not a slope. They have 2 flags in every green. They've intentionally built up the greens to be crazy. They want you to kind of play different holes, like invent holes, like 10 different greens. And like, if you're there to shoot a score, you are entirely missing the point of being there. And that's really fun because most of the golf I play, even if it's a match, it's like there's a point. There's a point of it other than just like having fun. And I think where 9 holes can really like captivate, to your point, like people where it's like, hey, I just want to get out there and scratch my itch. But even for people like us who like, this is our thing and we take it really seriously, it's almost like stimulating the creative side of your mind where it's like, yo, like, first of all, no one cares what you shoot anyway. Mm-hmm. But like when you go play like when you go play like Winchester, it's like, okay, this is a fucking hard ass like you get up on that first tee and it's like,
yep,
oh, it's open up there. It's like, is it? Because this looks pretty fucking tight. But when you get up on a 9-hole course, sort of like, whatever, man. Like, I'm not going to post the number today. That's not the point of being out here. And I think that's awesome. Right.
Yeah. To add to that point, I think that when you go out to Winchester, you have set these goals for yourself, and you're like, all right. I'm going to shoot this because we paid so much for this round. I better do good, right. And you hype yourself up. And then when you just have so much more leisure at a 9-hole, just because it I don't know if it's the at-home feel, if it's the cheaper prices, but regardless, it all comes together to be a little better of a feeling. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of a funny story, actually. So when Dave was working at Winchester, I hit him up one day and I told him, hey, I want to bring out my buddy. We play these cash games all the time, and I want to come out and we're gonna play. Oh. We're gonna play out at.
Is this Bobby Jackson?
Yeah. So I hit him up, and I didn't really mention who it was, and he goes, "Yeah, no problem. We'll get him out there." And then we kind of went back and forth, and then I just mentioned, I was like, "Oh, the guy that I'm bringing out is Bobby Jackson from the Kings," and Dave goes, "Oh, I'll get a tee time tomorrow." And so it was crazy too, because it was when all the wildfires were like going on, like surrounding Winchester Country Club. Like they were within like 40 miles of the course. And our buddy Juan from the Bay Area came out and played with us that day. And I don't think any of us could really breathe the entire round, because it was just like the sky was dark red, and it was just, you could feel the smoke out there. Did not stop us though. But
no.
What you were saying though about having an agenda, like I went out there and like that was what you're talking about. Like I went out there for a match against Bobby, cash game, like ready to go. And Dave didn't play that day. He kind of just followed us in a cart and just hung out and, you know, gave us tips and tricks about what, you know, nuances of the course and stuff like that. That's probably one of my favorite experiences. And I've talked to Bobby multiple times. He's never played with somebody that was a groundskeeper or worked on the course. And if anybody has the opportunity, it's almost like playing with almost a more knowledgeable caddy, because you, as a groundskeeper, a guy that works on the course, you know the nuances of every inch of that golf course, and you know exactly what the greens do. You knew exactly where to hit the ball and where not to hit the ball. And I think that's a really fun experience. If anybody can get that, you know, experience, and you know somebody that works on a course or runs maintenance on a course, like go out and play with them, because it was one of the best experiences I think all three of us have ever had. And Juan still talks to me about it all the time. And so I think that's one of the coolest, you know, juxtapositions between, you know, those two different things. And I'm really excited to get out to Arbuckle. I'm going to be coming down sometime in February to California. So I actually haven't even told Ashton.
Breaking news.
Yep.
Yeah, breaking news.
Yep, haven't even told Ashton, but
when he said February's prime time, so I think I can see where this is headed.
Yeah, definitely got to get out here for prime time. It's crazy when all the almond trees are blooming. You're driving down. There's a 5-mile road that you enter just right off I-5, and you're just driving through almond orchards, and it's all just white trees. It's beautiful.
Well, we're gonna have to talk to you about it, because I want to get a massive group of our golf buddies. You know, we have a group chat of like 36 guys that all live in the Bay Area. And I think it would be cool if we could organize a day where everybody comes out to Arbuckle and we just like run the course for the entire day. Like,
let's shut down the course for a day.
Yeah. Yeah, like loop it as many times as we can. Like, we'll make sure that the food and bev makes as much money as possible with all the guys that we bring. And I think that would be a really fun experience for people, because there's actually a course in Stockton. It's a 9-hole course. I don't know why I'm blanking. It
not Swenson?
No, it's privately owned.
Mm-hmm.
But you can rent the course out for a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to look it up on Instagram, and I'll post it when we post this episode on Thursday. But it's really cool because they don't ever open the course to the public. You can rent it per day, and it's super, super affordable to rent per day. And I actually did an event out there when I first moved to Berkeley, that someone was holding an event out there, and I went out and played. And that's one of the best things ever with nines, because you loop, you're finished, you can take an hour break, you can go back out and play another 9, you can take, a couple hour break, you can keep doing that all day. And I think that's one of the funnest parts, where it's like 18, you feel like you have to go if you don't play well, it's not like you're going to hop back in and play another 18. You're just like, well, fuck, I had a shitty day. That's the end of the day. On to next Saturday. But like for a 9, you always have a second chance to go back out there. And I think that's one of the coolest things. What would you say working out there in groundskeeping, being a superintendent, what would you say your goals are, over your career? Where would you like to see yourself kind of get to as a superintendent?
Well, there's a couple different goals that a lot of people have when you become a superintendent. Usually people, want to go become a general manager and take their steps to running a course. Usually when you switch over to a 9-hole course, it's a lot easier to become a superintendent at first, but then you still have to take the steps up to, becoming a superintendent of an 18-hole course and to becoming a general manager. My goal has always been to purchase an old golf course and re-renovate it and redesign it in, how I want it, do some different architecture and design a professional disc golf course alongside it as well too. So, those have been my dreams, and I've kind of just done everything that I can to get me to that place, and things are happening a lot faster than I thought they would. So, I just keep pushing the gas pedal and, trying to get to that goal. I can see myself being a superintendent of an 18-hole. I would love to be. Any of the courses around in this area, they're all beautiful. They all are designed by amazing people. They all have their own special little hints to them that I enjoy. So I would love to do that, but something in my heart really wants me to have my own course, and be able to leave my mark. I've read a lot of Mackenzie books and drawings, and I want that. I think everybody does, but I want to leave my footprint like that.
Dude, that's incredible. It's crazy to hear you talk. I was gonna say,
I'm inspired as fuck.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, no, Ashton, it's even crazier because I've known Dave for so long, and I remember when he got his first superintendent job, and we were hanging out at your brother's house, and I told you this was, this is when I was getting super back into golf after I took a couple year hiatus with it. And, I was chatting with you and I told you, I was like, if you stay with this and you stay in groundskeeping, become a superintendent and work your way up, it is a career that people don't realize is not only fulfilling, but it will keep you entertained throughout your entire career. And there is so much work throughout the United States. And it's such a good career. And if anybody, you can go to college and learn, how to grow grass. And Ashton at University of Georgia, they had an agriculture program that worked on the football field and the golf course that was actually at the
turf grass management within the landscape architecture school, which if I could go back, it's a 5-year program in undergrad, but if I could go back, I would do it because the two options are kind of the senior thesis, if you will, is you get to choose. Well, I don't know if you get to choose, but it's either the golf course or the football stadium. I think most people pick the football stadium because the pedigree of Georgia. But man, it's I could go back and talk to my 17-year-old self. I know what I would do.
But kind of where I was getting at is you don't necessarily have to go through one of those programs to be successful in this career. And there's so many guys that either worked construction or worked landscaping outside of golf that then, got themselves into golf. And, I've read a lot of books from Tom Doak and Gil Hance and some of these really big, modern architects. And there's stories about, Tom Doak calls all of his guys cavemen. So everybody that works for him are called cavemen. And they're the shapers, the builders, the grass guys, the whole team. And most of those guys don't come from a background of golf or, some of them come from turf management, programs in colleges. But the majority of them are just, hardworking guys that love the game and love what they do. And there's so many avenues that you can go with in the turf management field, superintendent, groundskeeper, or if you do want to get into building golf courses like you're doing, there's a million local architects that are always looking for a guy to help them shape a bunker, or those things you can pick up and you can do on the side and be able to learn those skills. I know I talk with Dan Hickson, who is a local architect here in Oregon. He's redesigned some of the best courses in the state of Oregon and has built some of the best, courses in the Pacific Northwest. And that's one thing he's always looking for, is somebody that's passionate, that would love to join on his team and do shaping. And those guys are always willing to get you to a point where, like, Tom Doak's guys are all leaving him now. They've worked for him for 15, 20 years, and they're starting their own architect firms and building their own courses. Some courses that are now ranked on the top 50, best courses in the world are the guys that just started digging ditches and shaping bunkers for Tom Doak. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this industry is you can work in the pro shop side of things. You can work in turf management. You can work in PGA Pro. You could build and fit golf clubs like myself, but there's a million avenues. If you love the game of golf, you can get into this and make a career of it.
Oh, 100%. Even with me, it was hard for me to decide if I wanted to become a superintendent, if I wanted to be a head of agronomy, if I wanted to be a mechanic, if I wanted to start my own business sharpening reels, things like that. There's one of the superintendents from Winchester actually started a business selling tires, and he has a great company. He makes quite a few $1 million a year selling tires to different golf courses, and there's wherever you find your niche in golf, that's the big thing, is that you can make a business out of it for sure in this industry. And I'm pretty sure, to go back to Mackenzie again, I'm pretty sure he started by doing bunkers for people. And he got famous by his original bunker plans on the Lido. One of the big courses like that.
So you're kind of on that line. So the Lido, he actually was able to design a hole through a contest. So he won a contest. He sent in plans on this hole that he wanted to build, and he was picked to build that. And the greatest part about that is Tom Doak is redesigning the Lido in Nebraska right now. So, in the Lido, original Lido, there's actually a course on the property still, but it's not the original Lido of what existed when it was built by C.J. McDonald. And then Tom Doak hired a guy that built the Lido on PGA 2K, not shitting you. He legitimately digitized what he could find into a video game. Tom Doak hired him and another guy that works at Sand Valley, just one of their groundskeepers that's really good with computer programs. He actually, for TrackMan and all these companies, he basically does the LiDAR to be able to plan out courses to be able to put into simulators. He basically was able to work with 2K and actually form that into a 3-dimensional plan and layout for them to be able to rebuild in real life, which is just batshit crazy to me that this course was built originally on the East Coast, in right outside New York and Long Island, and then now being rebuilt in Nebraska by a video game. It's just the industry's crazy. And again, you can find your avenue wherever you want. One question I had for you, you said you were kind of looking into different avenues. What's the difference between a head of agronomy and a superintendent?
A head of agronomy more controls, not necessarily the day-to-day of the the workers themselves, or coming up with a mow plan or the scheduling or anything like that. It's more so the person that has the turf degree, the person that knows the science behind the soils, the person that knows the science behind the different types of grasses that you want to use in different areas and why. I think the head of agronomy is necessary in a lot of higher end courses, because he's going to be there for the decision making, working with architects and different things like that. Whereas the superintendent is more in control of the workforce, the day to day, the billing, all the information that comes in and out of the golf course.
That was a good question, Chris. I was going to ask the same thing. Dave, I have two questions for me. One kind of golf related, and then one actually disc golf related. So obviously we have a podcast. We're just here talking every week. We have our opinions on greens and all this stuff. What's a couple things for you as a superintendent that you wish the average golfer knew, right? Because I think that sometimes people can just be really, in theory, cruel, I guess, or really judgmental, and we really don't know shit, right? I have opinions on greens, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. So as someone who's actually breathing life into these things and taking care of them, what are just a couple of things you wish the average golfer knew about kind of greens and taking care of them that might have people have a little more empathy for the work you do?
For the greens in specific, that's a big thing. I think that, with everybody wants the greens as fast as possible nowadays, and that comes at a price. If you want your greens fast, you usually want them pretty dead, because that's you're right on a thin line of them being dead is what makes them fast. And so when you get to colder climates, like we're coming into wintertime now, the grass isn't growing as fast as it was back in the summertime, when you could constantly be smashing it down and be okay with rolling over it, constantly mowing it 5 times a week, and when it starts to get into the thick of winter, you start to see it thin out in areas, and so you won't have it. You won't be able to mow certain sections. You won't be able to do it just because of the rate that the grass is growing, and at that point you're going to see natural slowing, just because it's a decision whether you want to keep the grass alive or if you want to keep it fast at that point. Certain things like that play a huge role in it. I didn't cut the greens today because I seeded a couple days ago, and I wanted to, make sure that the seeds had time to germinate before we sucked it all up with a mower. Certain things like that. People won't take into account that we're farming here, and yes, it's a very strict form of farming, and we want to keep it high and tight constantly. But at the same point, we are farming.
Yeah. And I'm curious for you also to put on your hopefully future architect hat on. I mean, I feel like a lot of what I've learned just in the last couple of years about golf course architecture is there seems to obviously be a kind of a push-pull between speed and sort of I would say undulation on greens, right? Mm-hmm. I know that I've learned a lot about how on the PGA Tour, for example, there's so few places they can actually put the pins when they're rolling 13, right? So right. I'm curious for you, if we fast forward 5, 6, or let's just go a year from now, 2 years from now, when you have your own course, if you really do have the opportunity to kind of shape greens and make them what you want, would you optimize for speed, or would you be more of hey, I'm going to make interesting greens and we're going to kind of tailor the speed to the greens? Or would you kind of be more of the kind of new school idea of fuck it, we're making them 14, but knowing that there's just places you can't put the pin?
I love that question. My opinion personally is I think Winchester had a great design that I can kind of base off of. They used platforms, so each green had different platforms to it. So you have a red, you have a white, and you have a blue area where it levels out on each green. And when you use platforms, you can actually have a certain area, whether it be 10 feet or 20 feet wide, depending on how much undulation, like you said, you put inside of each one of those areas, you kind of do have a natural table, if you make it your green to have multiple platforms. And so at that point, make it as fast as possible because you have those platforms. I think if you design the green right and you have, different areas that you design, yes, we're going to put a pin here, and then that next area is going to be up there, and that third area is going to be up there. Smoke them, make them as fast as possible. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, and my thought on that is like, well, if you hit the wrong tier, that's on you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Learn how to play golf
you're
better.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, better distance control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pick a different wedge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And then, honestly, Dave, my other question was, I have never played disc golf. Even though I'm a golfer, I've never, frankly, had any interest. I'm terrible at throwing a frisbee. You might not call them frisbees. I just love to hear you talk about disc golf. Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, not give me a sales pitch, but, like, tell me how you fell in love with disc golf and, like, feels like something I should maybe try. I would just love to hear you talk about that, too.
Yeah, it was 2000, I want to say 16 or 17. I had quit drinking at the time. I was looking for something to kind of, take up my time, a healthy, habit to form. And a lot of my friends had played disc golf. I was actually watching YouTube, and I had watched Jomez at the time is one of the big, huge disc golf channels. And they, Paul Macbeth, a famous disc golfer, had scored a round that he did, I think, 14 under at the time. And it was just a crazy round. He went on a run, and it just threw me for a whirl. It blew my mind. And so the next day I actually bought a disc golf basket. My mom had half an acre in the back of her house at the time. So I just threw a disc golf basket back there, and I just started practicing every day. And then I found a local park that was right down the street, a little 9-hole disc golf course. Nobody ever played on. I was the first person probably to play disc golf on it, because when I was out there throwing frisbees, people were like, what the heck is this guy doing in the middle of a park? But I really fell in love with it there. And then I came back to the Rockland area, where there's a huge following for disc golf. We have some of the world champions that actually lived in this area, trained in this area. So, I came back to Rockland, with my motor going, ready to get into it. And I fell in love with it out here. And I have a huge friend group now. You feel like you're part of the community out here in this area with it. And it's, it's taken me way further than I ever thought it could.
Yeah, Ashton. So I've actually played disc golf a good amount, and you'd be shocked at the amount of courses that are in the Rockland, Roseville, Citrus Heights, Orangevale area. So Rockland has a city-owned park with a library and, all of this. And in that park, which is close to downtown Rockland, they've got a disc golf course there. And I wouldn't say the best disc golf course out there. I would say the one out in Citrus Heights is a much better track. The one out with the creeks that run through it. I don't know what that one's called.
Yeah, it's called Shady Oaks.
Yeah, Shady Oaks. But they have a full-on pro shop. It's like going to a real golf course. You go out there, you check in at the pro shop. They've got discs and bags and shirts and clothes and all that, just like regular golf. And it's wild. And it's treated exactly the same, except they don't have to manicure the grounds as tight as they do. It's more, wouldn't you say, Dave, it's more of tree trimming. It's more of dealing with the arbory, side of things, making sure the trees aren't growing into the actual holes more than a turf type situation.
Definitely. It's definitely broad landscaping and hardscape a lot more than it is what which we find just mowing and, weed whacking on a daily course. That's the beautiful thing about disc golf courses. That's why you're finding them getting put on golf courses all of the time, because the amount of care and upkeep that it takes for a disc golf course, you don't change the pins on a daily. There's you usually rarely ever have to blow off a fairway or anything. The upkeep is just way less intrusive to the environment, as well as way cheaper for the golf course. And then you can have 2 sets of tee times at that point. You can charge people, pretty much the exact same price that you're charging them for a round. Swenson in Stockton is a good example of that. They charge $15 a round for disc golf, and it takes half the time. They do it on their 9-hole golf course, and I'd say it's one of the reasons that it saved the golf course, and now they hold pro tour events there.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, it's like an 8-year-old saying that, but like that's awesome. Like I had no idea. I had no idea. I mean, not that I would ever have guessed, but no idea. Like Roseville Rockland, like home of a world champion. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
I know I've walked by like in Golden Gate Park. There's everything, but I've seen people playing it in Golden Gate Park, and I've always been like, huh. But I've walked by the first tee at Golden Gate Park, and I was like, that. But in my head, that's probably a great place to play in Golden Gate Park, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, that's a huge park. It's crazy. I actually went to Golden Gate Park 5 or 6 times without even knowing where the disc golf course was, until one day I just parked next to it and I went, holy crap, there's a disc golf course here. Oh my gosh. But it's a great course. For being in the center of San Francisco, it's not as crazy busy as you would think it is. If you want to go to a golf course in the center of San Fran, the Olympic Club or something like that, you're gonna either wait on a waiting list forever, or you're gonna need to know somebody to get in there. And with disc golf, you walk right up to it. It's free. There's no charge to it, and you're gonna meet somebody that'll take you around and show you around the course. It's.
I might need to do that. Yeah,
you really should.
What it sounds like is I need to come up and play Arbuckle, and then you need to come stay here, and we'll go play Golden Gate.
We may have designed a disc golf course on Arbuckle already as well too. So it's
hell yeah.
So that's already happened.
Let me ask you one more question now. Then what makes a good disc golf hole? Is it like lots of obstacles? Is it I don't know. Like what makes a good disc golf hole?
I think you have a lot of different types of players in disc golf. You have people that grew up in the trees, so they grew up in courses that are in the woods. Oh. So there's constant tight lines, and they're just hitting a gap, in between 2 trees. And then you have people that grew up on golf courses that are just throwing huge drives, 500, 600-foot drives. So when you take those 2 different people and you ask them that question, you're going to get a different answer from both those guys. Wow. Because one guy says, I love hitting this gap right here. Exactly, yeah. And then you have another guy that says, I love hitting the huge drives, like that. And so when it really comes to it, you get the 2 different options. For me personally, I love getting out on the course and throwing a huge drive, but I like half and half. I like going into the woods because that's really how you prove yourself. Some of the top courses, you'll get 4 holes, in the woods. You'll get 4 holes open in a field, and then you'll get 4 holes that are more like a park style course, inside of a regular like local park.
So it's very much like golf in that aspect.
Definitely.
Because I would say me and Ashton.
I was going to say hit the gap is like Eastmoreland.
Yeah.
Portland
golf is basically those guys that grew up in the trees. That's Portland. Every hole in Portland, or most of them, are tree lined with 40-year-old, pines and evergreens. And then you go to the Bay Area and it's wide the fuck open on most courses.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the course in Oregon. It's a 100-something-year-old course. They actually hold a disc golf pro tour event there as well on a golf course.
I know Meriwether has a disc golf course. I'll have to look into that and see what
it doesn't
what
have a disc golf course on it, but they design one for the pro tour, and they hold it on the disc golf course. I can't remember it for me. It's the Beaver State Fling is the name of the tournament that they usually hold there. Huh. But that's happened more and more. It's happening more and more now that you'll get disc golf courses designed temporarily on golf courses because of the revenue that it's actually bringing in for the pro tour tournaments.
And it makes total sense. Because basically it's like free money, right? It's like, exactly. To your point, not a lot of manicure. It makes total sense. Wow, I'm compelled. We'll put it that way. Is it compelled to word?
It's kind of the same.
I'm interested.
It's kind of the same reason why golf courses have put out soccer golf into a lot of courses. I don't know.
Oh, that's like Foxtail, Foxtail North or Foxtail South.
You'll play courses and you'll see these holes that are gigantic, big, plastic drums in the ground, and you're just like, what the fuck is that? It's soccer golf, and that has been a huge, especially when it was kind of the the golf industry was kind of in a really bad recession prior to COVID, you saw a lot more golf courses trying to be able to, find, different alternatives to bring money in the door. And so, the soccer golf, disc golf, those kind of things, it's like you said, you're not having to manipulate or change the course at all. All you're doing is adding a second or third game to an existing property and charging people money for it.
Right. And I think, that's in the end is what's going to help save some of the golf courses.
Yeah. Well, Dave, man, dude, thank you so much, man. This was it was just stimulating in so many ways. And yeah, we'll have to, hopefully I'll talk to Big Chris offline about February. And if you're ever in the city, we'll have to go play Golden Gate Park. And we could have the double day. We could go play the Golden Gate Park 9 golf, and then we could go play disc golf after that. They're like a mile away from each other.
Yeah,
so
they are.
Thank you so much for coming on. This was really, really interesting stuff.
Hey, I appreciate it. I love talking to you guys. Anytime that I can, get on and talk about golf it's a dream for me.
Oh, we'll definitely have you on again, because I know there's going to be some more, turf conversations that we're going to want to have coming into this. And especially with some of these new courses being built, I would love to pick your brain about, certain things that are changing in golf and what's going on in the turf industry. So, dude, I'm so proud of you. I'm so stoked that you are where you are at in your career right now. It's a huge accomplishment where you're at. And
Thank you.
I just see so much more opportunity for you.
I can't wait for MuniciPals to do a couple of our events. We're coming to your golf course. We're fucking throwing an event on your golf course when that happens. I'm telling you that.
Well, for sure.
That's
doing that.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring a bunch of morons out to play a gigantic match play tournament on your course.
I have a picture of a huge barbecue that we keep on the property that I got to send to you guys. So once you see that, you'll be like, "Wow, yeah, we're doing it."
We're for sure. No, it's in the works. It's gonna happen. So we're gonna make that happen. Take over Arbuckle for a day.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Thank
guys.
you so much, Dave. It's great to talk to you, man.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Okay. Bye.
Late.